You know that feeling, right? That sense of being completely stuck? Just staring up at this mountain of problems in front of you? Well, what if I told you that you could solve almost all of it? Like 93% of it. We've dug into 3 totally different online sources: a blunt truth teller, a super practical strategist, and a deep thinker. And you know what? They all pointed to the exact same powerful solutions. So let's get into it. So, why does it feel so impossible sometimes? For you, it might be the pressure of your GPA, or the stress from your job, or maybe it's just that nagging feeling of being completely uninspired. We all get trapped in this cycle of anxiety and procrastination that makes everything feel like a huge uphill battle. So here's the thing. The issue is that we're constantly fighting the symptoms. The late night cramming, the binge watching, the endless scrolling. But those aren't the real problem, not even close. We're about to get to the root cause and lay out a really clear framework to help you take back control. Okay, so here's our roadmap. First, we're going to define what this 93% problem actually is. Then, we'll dive into how to master your mindset, choose action over anxiety, tune out all that noise, and finally, how to turn this entire thing into a real lifestyle of growth. All right, let's start with the problem itself. And the very first thing you need to hear is this. If you feel stuck, you are not alone. That feeling isn't some kind of personal failure. It's pretty much the universal starting line for everyone. Now, do any of these look a little familiar? The stress about grades, cramming all night long, escaping into Netflix for hours, or my personal favorite, that classic productivity where you clean your entire apartment instead of actually studying. These are just the symptoms we get bogged down in, but they're all just noise distracting us from the real issue. And boom, here we are, the source of it all. So much of the chaos we feel isn't actually coming from the outside. It's internal. It's our own minds just playing out worst-case scenarios on a loop, mostly because they're bored and untrained. And that's where the real work and the real solutions begin. So let's get to our first solution: mastering your mindset. This is all about winning that inner game by fundamentally changing how you see yourself, your challenges, and pretty much the world around you. First up, we have to let go of this crazy idea that we need to have everything figured out. Life is just a process of picking things up as you go. Embracing the idea that you're a student for life isn't a weakness. You know what it is? It's incredibly freeing. Okay, this next idea has so much practical power. Getting a bad grade doesn't mean you're not smart. It just means your method isn't working. That simple shift moves the focus from something you can't change, like intelligence, to something you absolutely can, your strategy. And finally, a little dose of blunt truth. The pressure to be special is just crushing. But when you realize you're not, and that that's totally okay, you are suddenly free. You're free from expectations. You get to decide who you want to be moment by moment. This leads to a really crucial tool called depersonalizing. Basically, it's the shift from thinking the world is out to get me to things are just happening. A setback isn't a personal attack. It's just data. It's an event that gives you tools you can build with. And trust me, this mindset gives you an advantage most people just don't have. So, once the mindset is right, how do we actually turn that into results? Well, that brings us to our second pillar: choosing action over anxiety, and finally breaking that cycle of procrastination for good. Okay, let's just bust the biggest myth out there: motivation. Motivation is just a spark. It's emotional. It's unreliable. One of our sources calls it a flaky little gremlin. Discipline, on the other hand, that's the engine. It's mechanical, it's consistent, and it shows up whether you feel like it or not.
And here's the key takeaway. Procrastination isn't about laziness. It's just fear dressed up in comfy clothes. Your brain way overestimates how painful that first step is going to be. The real secret is to just start. Seriously, just tell yourself you'll only work for 5 minutes, because once you begin, momentum takes over. And that fear you feel, it's not a stop sign. It's actually an invitation. The things that scare you are often a signal that you're on the right track, pushing you toward growth and the person you're really meant to become. Okay, so we've covered the internal game, but what about all the external chaos? This brings us to our third pillar: tuning out the noise by truly mastering your environment. Take a look at this number, 0. What do you think it represents? It's the number of opinions from high school that matter today. 0.
Once you realize how few external opinions actually have any long-term impact on your life, it becomes so much easier to focus on what you actually care about. So, how do you create that peace? Well, here are some hard truths. Stop overthinking mixed signals. If they wanted to, they would. Unfollow people who drain your energy. Own your triggers instead of expecting the world to tiptoe around you. And you gotta recognize that people pleasing isn't kindness, it's a form of fear. You have to embrace simplicity. Freedom usually comes from cutting things away, not from adding more. And now for the final section, where we put it all together. This isn't about some temporary fix. This is about a complete transformation. Growth isn't just an event, it's a lifestyle. You see, the real shift happens when you move from doing something to being something. It's one thing to do a task, like, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. It is a whole other thing to immerse yourself in an identity, to actually see yourself as a healthy person. When you adopt that identity, all the actions that go with it just become natural, and your reality has no choice but to transform. And what's the engine of this new lifestyle? It's consistency. It's not about these huge, intense efforts once a month. It's about the small, sustainable, almost boring actions you take every single day. That is what builds unstoppable momentum. And as you're building this new life, I really want you to remember this. Your value is not your GPA, it is not your productivity, it is measured by your growth. You are allowed to make mistakes, you are allowed to grow slowly. Success isn't just about the destination, it is all about the journey. So there it is, a clear roadmap pulled together from some of the best advice out there. You have the tools to master your mind, to take action, to protect your peace, and to build a life of growth. The only question left is, what are you going to do with it?